Hello,
Hey Jay, how's it going?
I'm going good. How about you?
Good.
Are you
Yeah,
well?
yeah. You?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It just sounded like like your throat is itchy or something, so that's why I asked you.
Yeah, it's still getting there.
Cool. Mm, yeah, I don't think Max or Surtech
Yeah.
are gonna be having.
Um, do you know if Serdar is returning?
Uh, I saw he's out sick today. I think.
Oh, did he send a message? Oh yeah, okay, sick. Yeah, okay. Well, maybe this is a short one then.
Yeah.
Um, Let me take a look at the agenda.
Yeah, I have a couple of items.
Okay,
Uh,
let's go through it real quick then.
yeah.
Okay.
So this first one is about library, and like in library, it seems that we have naming for examples as in allowed something, disallowed something, and for most of the policies, when
Mhm.
user applies the policies and creates allowed example and then creates disallowed examples, it seems that disallowed examples uh, are disallowed because of constraint templates or constraints specification, right? But for referential policies, like the disallowed examples wouldn't get denied unless the inventory objects also exist in cluster.
Mhm.
And so naming makes it more confusing because when somebody is trying this referential policies and hoping to get denied for disallowed examples, they wouldn't.
I see. Because it depends on if you had one or more.
Yeah, so I was
Okay.
wondering if it makes sense to uh,
Rename?
rename or add inventory resources in the example itself uh, in library website.
Can you explain what you mean by inventory resources? What do you mean by that?
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, so for referential policies to get denied, you need another resource already in
Yes.
cluster,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So in library we don't have that exit like another resource that you need to have in cluster in order to get denied. So I was thinking if we can make that resource user facing and as in include in the example itself so that we make it clear that once you have this resources, this example would get denied.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's just a rename, right, of the example. So instead of calling an example disallowed, you would probably call, example dash um unique or something, or example one, example two, right? And then the violation would be yes when it's example two. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, but in that case we are expecting that for referential policies user will go sequentially saying I'll apply example 1 and then I'll apply example 2, like if they are trying out policies.
Mm. Again, I think this is. Wait, hold on. Don't share the same host name according to this isn't blocked.
I guess that would make also sense to just rename. That would be less I mean that would be more simpler than than adding something in generation process, I guess.
Yeah, because I think it's not so much to automate inclusion of the missing inventory resource into the documentation examples. This gap could potentially apply to all time which used it. Uh,
Yeah, and the other thing is that in CI itself, we are not using example allowed as a existing resource in cluster to have conflict up against example disallowed, if that makes sense. So I think we'll need to, if we rename those examples for that purposes, I think we'll need to change how we test uh, in our CI for for them as well.
Right, let me read through
Okay.
uh can you elaborate on what Andrew is saying in terms of would it perhaps be more sustainable to automate inclusion of the missing inventory resource into the documentation examples? What does that mean?
Yeah, so that's what I was saying, right? Like
Yeah,
for referential policies in the testing itself, let me figure out a file. Just give me a moment. I
mhm,
can share my screen that way.
sounds good. Yeah, I think if there is a way that you can like add something in the inventory, instead of having in the files, in the examples, that might be better, yeah. I just don't know how you plan to do that.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm right now in unique ingress host, right? And if we
Yeah,
look at the suite.yaml,
yeah,
uh, for example, disallowed, we are defining some other file which
yeah.
we are taking as a getter. Like this is basically inventory file or a file or a resource that should exist in the cluster against which the resource we are testing now would conflict.
Hmm.
So Andrew was basically suggesting that we should add this resource as well on the library
Hmm.
so that it is clear or more transparent to user that in this specific scenarios you'll be able to get denied because this
Can you
example.
show me this example inventory disallowed? Can you show me?
Yes.
Okay,
So this is yeah, this is the example, and I
okay,
think this is unique ingress policy. So the
okay.
policy that we are testing would have the same host name,
I see.
and
Uh,
I guess allowed ones. Yeah.
I mean, I think, and how do you add the inventory? So you will basically apply the inventory first, and then you apply
Yeah.
yeah. Can you show me where that code is? How you use the inventory thing from the test suite?
Uh,
Pretty sure I missed this. Like how that inventory,
this one.
yeah.
I think
Right.
I don't know top of my mind, but I think it should be in Getter somewhere, right?
Oh, I see.
Sorry. So appears it's more like a documentation change. I
Okay.
don't know if naming change or making those inventory resources available because when you go onto the website you don't see those resources, you just see example allowed, example disallowed, right?
Yeah, if you could go back, okay, let's assume it's in Gator. Go back to the 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 test suite.
Yeah.
Okay. I think maybe the only thing I would say is the inventory, that inventory YAML shouldn't say disallowed. It should just say example inventory. Because that inventory itself is not a test case, right? It's just an,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that would be my only feedback. But to your point, the specific test is still disallowed because it's duplicated, right? Like, and the inventory, again, I would change the inventory to just say inventory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's still like we are still faced with the initial issue, right, where user is expecting one thing from the naming of the resources that we have under library website, but not getting the same behavior like as per the issue.
Yeah. So I think we just need to rename rename like the example dash disallowed, like we just need to rename that to example that dash disallowed, uniqueness or something, because that test case itself should now fail because it always comes with the inventory, right? I think the issue is before you had inventory, if you just apply this allow by itself, it may not run into a problem.
Yeah, but see, this inventory disallowed is not visible to a person using library website, right? This
Mhm.
is when you dig into suit YAML, you get to know that hey, this specific resource is needed.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Um, hmm, I think we should just rename the example to or update the example to have multiple hosts with the same name, I guess. That's another way to do it, right?
Yeah, have example disallowed, and within itself have two different uh, fields with like two different entries with the same
Different
host.
rules. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
guess that could work.
You could do it that way, if you want. Because I get the confusion because right now, if you just look at disallowed by itself, you're like, why is that denied, right?
Yeah.
And it's denied because it thinks you deployed allowed first,
Yeah,
which is, oh, actually, it doesn't even, it's not because of allowed, because allowed has a different host name anyway.
yeah.
So yeah, so disallowed actually shouldn't fail. So why is disallowed failing? Hmm.
But it's not failing in the CI. That's what I'm.
Oh,
If
it's
some,
not failing the CI.
yeah,
Okay.
if somebody is just trying out this policy, right, and so somebody did reach out to me saying, hey, why is this
Action.
policy not working? So
I
that's why
see.
I
So
created
yeah,
this.
so why don't you update the example disallowed with like the same host names?
Yeah, I think that could also work. Yeah.
Okay. Because the second one, disallowed too, is also shouldn't fail, right?
Yeah. Example two.
That's strange.
Hmm.
So why is the second one failing?
Uh, wait, yeah. Example two. Host two. The host is different. Let me get to.
Are the tests failing or are there
No,
actually?
tests are not failing.
Okay, so something is weird then, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Example disallowed to, inventory disallowed to. Okay. Host is this. Oh yeah, so example disallowed to has the same host, right? So this is a disallowed to file, which should get denied, and this is the inventory for it, which has
Sorry,
this.
I'm not looking at your screen.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah,
Sorry.
so
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
this is the inventory file or a resource that it conflicts against, which has the same host URL as the one that should get denied. So it will
Right.
work, right?
Yes.
So
Right. But again, that's not what is showing up on the website. On the
yeah,
website, yeah.
so that's
Oh,
where the
I see.
confusion is. So maybe like just updating this example host 3 to 2 would suffice, I guess.
Can you go to the inventory again? I see the problem. Because the inventory is adding it. Ugh, okay.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I think if you update the example, it would definitely show the point and it's clear on the website, but it's not really a typical use case.
yeah,
A
because
typical
yeah,
use case is you wouldn't put the same host
yeah,
name. Yeah.
exactly.
Um, maybe maybe show the inventory.
Yeah, so that's what the initial
I
question I
see.
was asking. Would it
Okay, so
be?
so do you want to add the inventory to the website then? Because I think
Yeah,
that's what's missing, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay, then that sounds like a good next step then.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
And if you don't mind, while you're in there, maybe just update the inventory name or file name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I guess while we're here, do you have any questions on the framework PR?
Yeah, so I looked at your comments and it makes sense to add tests for constraints. Uh, and I left a comment there as well
Mm-hmm.
uh, to update the a little bit of the design that we decided upon. So the idea is basically if generate VAP field is not set to true on constraint, sorry, is set to true on constraint template, but constraint specifically does not include VAP as an enforcement point in scoped enforcement action, we wouldn't create VAPB, uh, which actually have will enforce the same thing, right? Um,
Map enforcement point is omitted in C, do not generate binding. Enforce cell through cell engine first. So let me ask you, right now, w- in order to, I mean, I think by default, people may not add the VAP enforcement point, right? They
so
may not add the scope enforcement action.
yeah, so if we are not using scoped enforcement action, it's an inclusive behavior just as another enforcement points, right?
Right.
So in that case, we would inherit the property of generate VAP from constraint template.
Well, let's not talk about VAP, right? Because we know generate VAP is set at the CT level, so
Yeah.
we're not concerned of, at least I'm not concerned about VAP. I'm more concerned about VAP binding, right? And what can you do on the constraint to override it?
Yeah, so in order to override and not generate web binding, you would need to use scoped enforcement action and omit VAP enforcement point.
Gotcha.
Because if we are doing inclusive enforcement points, it would by default create binding if validating admission policy exists.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. So basically if you don't provide anything at the constraint level, it's just inheriting from CT.
Yeah.
Okay, and if it's false if generative app is set to false in CT, enforce sell through cell engine for C. Do you mean enforce sell through gatekeeper?
Yeah, so we have cell engine, right, which evaluates.
Yeah, I know, but it's I just want to clarify. So when you say cell engine, you mean the one in gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Okay. And if it's false in CT, you cannot override it in constraint.
Yeah, you cannot.
Okay, so my again, I might be good to again document this and make sure this is tested.
So, isn't this in pair with the current label situation? Like, if label is not present, like use VAP label is not present on constraint template, but it is only present in constraint, we wouldn't be creating VAP as well, right?
That's
Like we
right.
would. So that would be your on pair with this generative existing behavior. The change I'm proposing would be on pair with existing
Yeah.
behavior, right?
It's the same behavior, which is great because that we don't want to change the
Yeah,
behavior.
yeah,
But I'm saying I saw that you remove a lot of the
yeah, yeah,
tests.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'll
that's
add some
that.
back.
So those tests should be added back, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it was confusing because initially you said a constraint at the constraint level you cannot omit. Sorry, you cannot override, and then you remove the test, so that made it sound like you really can't override,
Yeah.
which is not the case, right? Okay, so yeah, so if you could just add the test back, and make sure the design doc has the latest, I think we're good to go.
Okay, cool.
All right. Anything else?
One last thing.
Mhm.
So I asked this in the Slack channel as well. For our mutating webhook configurations, we are not including sub resources like pod ephemeral containers and other sub resources.
Mhm.
Uh, do we have any objections on adding them? Because in validating webhook configurations, we are adding them. Um, so
Validated, we are adding that. Okay.
Yeah, so mutations, for example, for ephemeral containers would not work if you install Gatekeeper right now, because those resources are not included in the webhook configuration itself.
So what's the answer that you will use a sub resource for validation or
So
for
we are already validating a sub resource, but we are not
yes.
mutating a sub resource uh, right now.
Okay. Which issue is this?
It's not an issue right now. It's just I posted it on Slack. I can share you the
I
link.
see. I guess like I want to understand the use case. Like
So the
what
use
you
case was basically we have a mutating policy on Gatekeeper library, which which includes ephemeral container mutations related to ephemeral containers. But if you install Gatekeeper right now, that policy wouldn't work
I see.
because that sub resource is not included as a part of web.
Can you add a link to that policy?
Uh, Here, yeah.
You can add it to the doc. 'Cause- 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 'c
Yeah, it's added on the doc itself.
Hmm?
Yeah, I shared it on the chat, and this is the webhook mutating webhook configurations that we have right now in Gatekeeper.
Let's see. Allow privilege escalation. You're saying this mutation example doesn't work.
Yeah, that mutation for ephemeral container won't work. Like for init and normal containers, it would, but for ephemeral container, the last in which, yeah, this basically the one I'm
I
pasting,
see the second one, right?
the third one.
Oh, sorry, the third one. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
gotta
wouldn't
scroll
work.
down more. Okay. And that is because of the sub resource?
Yeah, I shared the webhook configurations we have right now in the chat itself
Uh-huh.
for mutation.
Got
And
it.
since we are
Okay.
not, yeah,
Okay, I see. I see. Hmm. Because we're not doing sub resources. Okay.
yeah,
Or we're not explicitly listing them.
yeah.
Is that
But
right?
for validation webhook configuration, we are.
Right, right,
So
right. But so you're asking that we, like, say, at least for this example, we need to add pod slash it ephemeral
yeah,
container. Okay,
yeah.
got it. Can you try it first and make sure it works and
I
then,
did yesterday. It
okay,
works.
and that works fine?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I don't see why we shouldn't. Um, Otherwise, to your point, this example doesn't work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I asked in the Slack channel, and I think Max said that there was no intentional reason why we didn't include it here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has any objections on adding it. I just wanted your opinion as well.
Right. Let me respond to that. I don't think um I think I'm not as clear on which sub resources we want to add.
I mean, we
Uh,
should at least add the ones that we are validating for, right? Like allow the mutations on the same
yeah,
resources.
not validating, but more like the one that you are allowing mutation for. Does that make sense? Because you're mutating, right?
Yeah. So, are you suggesting it should be up to the users to decide which, like when installing Gatekeeper, what kind of resource, sub resource should be mutated and what kind not?
Uh, I mean, everything that we are including in the chart is suggestion, right? It's a recommendation,
Yeah.
right? However user uses it, they could always change it
Yeah.
for use case. But in this case, I'm more saying I don't know what are the things that are mutable right now. Like for example, all these sub resources should be mutable, but I'm not 100% sure if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It does.
Um, I, yeah, I think they are okay. Actually, I can see some of these ones would be used for other mutation examples, you know? Um, so yeah, why don't you just push a PR to add them and then we can discuss in the PR. I can't tell if there's any right now, but Um, I could be wrong. Like services status. Like I don't know if we want to mutate that ever.
Yeah.
Um, so we may have to look at each one of these and and make sure we don't recommend something bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but to your point, at a minimum, we could just put the pot and thermal containers, but I think there might be other ones that people might want. So,
Okay.
okay, sounds good. I will put this in the meeting notes, so we have a record of this. Sounds good.
Yeah.
And also, again, for the again for the framework PR, make sure you go back and add the
Yeah.
changes into the doc because none of us is gonna remember this. So like I
Yeah.
was reading your PR and I was like, I don't remember this, and I went to I went to the doc and I was like very out of date.
Yeah. I actually modified the dog, but I forgot. Like I didn't add the timestamp, so it was not apparent. The change was not apparent. So that was a good suggestion on adding the timestamp where I made the changes, so that it's easier to exactly spot the changes.
Yeah, that's the thing with these like long-term designs, they evolve. And so if we don't update the design doc, it's very hard to track. And when do we make a decision? Why? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Anything else?
No, nothing else.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will use the time to work on other PR reviews.
Yeah.
And thanks for all the PRs.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I could use some reviews on
I
the
know. I know.
library PR as well.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Bye.
Bye.